ever feel like, you're being put in a box, like society's got this mold and you're supposed to just fit in?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, take that feeling, right? And then imagine a world where your personality, like who you are at your core, dictates your whole life.
Wow.
Your job, your friends, even like your values. That's the world Veronica Roth built in Divergent. And today, we're taking a deep dive into it. We'll unpack its themes and explore what it says about, well, identity and choice, and even like the courage to be yourself.
Oh.
And the coolest part, this entire deep dive is narrated by AI.
No way.
Courtesy of Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go. So all you got to do is sit back, relax, and let the information sink in.
That's awesome. It's amazing how Roth creates this world, splitting it into 5 factions. Each one stands for a different, central value.
Okay, so let's break them down. Starting with abnegation.
Yeah.
That's where our main character, Beatrice, grew up.
Right.
They're all about selflessness, always putting others first. They're kind of like the backbone of society.
I can see that.
But their life is, well, pretty simple. Think plain clothes, not a lot of stuff, always focus on helping others.
Gotcha. And then there's amity.
Yeah, the peacemakers.
Exactly. They're big on kindness, harmony, avoiding conflict at all costs. You can practically picture them, living on these peaceful farms, baking bread, and just promoting unity wherever they go.
Totally. And then you've got candor.
Oh, candor.
All about honesty. Sometimes maybe a little too honest.
Yeah, they definitely don't hold back.
They believe the truth, no matter how tough it is. That's the only way to live. They're the lawyers, the judges, the ones making sure things are fair, even if it ruffles some feathers.
For sure. And then there's Dauntless.
Now, those are the adrenaline junkies.
Oh, yeah. Dauntless is where the brave ones hang out. They're the protectors, always pushing their limits, imagine them jumping off buildings, getting tattoos, always testing the boundaries of fear. They're the soldiers, the police, the ones keeping everyone safe, though their methods can be a bit intense.
A bit. And finally, we've got erudite.
The brains of the operators.
The intellectuals, exactly. Knowledge, logic, always looking for answers. They're the researchers, the scientists, the ones who are constantly striving for understanding.
Right. Always pushing for progress. And here's where things get really interesting. At 16, every teenager takes this aptitude test.
Huge deal, right?
Oh, absolutely. It determines which faction they're best suited for. It basically decides your entire life path.
And Beatrice's test. Total curveball.
Yeah. Doesn't fit neatly into any one faction, which means...
She's divergent.
Exactly. Divergence. It's like this glitch in the system. It means you've got aptitude for multiple factions.
And that's a bad thing.
In this world, yeah, it's seen as a threat to the order of things.
Interesting.
People who don't conform, who think for themselves, they're considered dangerous.
And Beatrice is told, straight up, keep your divergence a secret.
It's a secret that's going to weigh on her, especially as she faces the biggest decision of her life. The choosing ceremony.
The choosing ceremony.
It's a ritual, right? Every 16-year-old, in front of the whole community, they cut their hand and let their blood drip into a bowl.
A bowl.
Each bowl represents a faction, the one they choose. Imagine the pressure, the tradition, everyone's watching your family, your friends.
Wow.
Intense.
Totally. And Beatrice's family, being abnegation, well, they expect her to stay.
Stick with them.
But everything inside her, it's pulling her somewhere else. In a moment that shocks everyone, Beatrice chooses Dauntless. She embraces that courage she's always felt inside.
Bold move.
It totally breaks with tradition, creates this ripple effect that impacts not just her life, but her family too.
Her family.
Her brother, Caleb, he makes a surprising choice too, transfers to erudite.
Wow.
So just like that, this family is split. Divided by these faction lines, it really reflects the deep divisions that exist, even in a system that seems so rigid and controlled.
It's like, even though there are all these rules, it still causes so much conflict.
Exactly. And now Beatrice, who starts going by Triss, she's got to go through Dauntless initiation. Sounds rough.
It's brutal. Pushing these initiates to their absolute limits, jumping from moving trains, fighting, knife throwing. It's all designed to, weed out the weak and make the rest into fearless warriors.
Wow.
And Triss, even with her abnegation upbringing, she faces it all head on. She wants to prove herself, but also she's trying to figure out these two very different parts of who she is.
It's like she's got these two halves that don't quite fit together.
Exactly. The dauntless way of life, with all the bravery and risk-taking, it clashes with the selflessness and humility she was raised with.
And how does she handle that?
Well, during initiation, She comes face to face with the fear landscape. It's the simulation that forces initiates to confront their deepest fears.
That's intense.
It's supposed to test how they handle pressure, but for Triss, it becomes a revelation. She does things in the simulation that no one's ever seen before. It shows off her divergence to everyone watching.
Uh-oh. Not good.
It makes her even more of a target because those in power, they see the threat she represents. And meanwhile, outside the Dauntless compound, tensions are rising between Erudite and Abnegation.
What's going on?
Erudite, led by this cunning leader, Janine Matthews, starts spreading propaganda, making Abnegation look weak and corrupt.
So much for a perfect system, right?
It makes you wonder, how did it get this bad? Why is Erudite so set on tearing down Abnegation? It's obvious there's something bigger going on, and Tress, with her divergence, might be right in the middle of it.
And she probably has no idea.
Right. And then Tress has this key encounter with Janine. Janine's brilliant calculating. She sees right through Tress and senses her divergence.
Tress is in even more danger now.
Absolutely. Threats inside, Dauntless, and outside. And those threats get real when Tress is attacked, brutally, by some of her own initiates, Peter, Drew, and Al.
Oh, wow.
Jealousy, fear, it drives them to try to eliminate her, shows you the dark side of Dauntless culture and how far some will go to climb the ladder.
It's like, even in a faction that's supposed to be about bravery, there's still so much fear and insecurity.
Exactly. And the betrayal completely shakes Tress. And the consequences, devastating. Al, he can't handle the guilt of what he did, and he commits suicide.
That's awful.
It makes you think about the emotional cost of all this, you know? The pressure to fit in, the fear of being different. It raises questions about what it really means to belong in a world where individuality is seen as a weakness.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if the price of conformity is too high.
For sure. And things escalate even further when Erudite uses a simulation to control the Dauntless, turns them into weapons to attack Abnegation.
Whoa,
That's a huge turning point. It shows you the true ambition of Erudite, how they're willing to use anyone and anything to get what they want. And in all the chaos of the attack, we learn something shocking about Triss's mother.
What is it?
She was Dauntless once, kept it hidden from her family. We also find out that she knew about Divergence, understood how dangerous it was. It's clear she was trying to protect Triss.
But why all the secrecy? What else is she hiding?
Right. And tragically, Triss's mother sacrifices herself to save her children. It's a heartbreaking loss, and it fuels Triss's determination to fight back against everything that's tearing her world apart.
She must be feeling so much pain and anger.
She manages to escape the city with her brother Caleb and her father.
Where'd they go?
They're searching for safety, a place away from the violence. But their journey's far from over, and the world outside the city walls is just as dangerous and uncertain.
So what happens next? We'll have to wait and see. Join us for part 2 of our deep dive into Divergent.
So they're outside the city now, right? In this wasteland.
It's a far cry from the world they left behind.
Yeah, totally. And this is where the factionless live. You know, the ones who couldn't make it in a faction or just said, forget this whole system.
It's kind of like a stark reminder of what happens if you don't fit in. Those who are outside, those neat little boxes society loves to create. It makes you think, like seeing them in poverty, does this faction system, the thing that's supposed to create order, has it actually caused more problems than it's solved? What do you think about that?
That's a good question, for sure. The factionless, they really challenge, you know, the whole foundation of this society. They show you that the system's not perfect, and their existence kind of raises these doubts about, like, all that supposed harmony the factions claim to have.
Okay, so Triss and her companions, they're desperate for safety.
Of course.
They turn to the Amity, the peaceful faction, all about kindness and harmony.
Right.
But even there, even in this place that seems so idyllic, the conflict's still lurking.
Yeah, the Erudite's propaganda, it's gotten to Amity too, planting these seeds of doubt.
Oh, wow.
It's like the war, it's spreading, even to those who are trying to stay neutral.
And Triss realizes there's no escaping it.
No.
But then in the middle of all this, someone familiar shows up. Tobias.
Oh, Tobias, her Dauntless instructor.
The one who also escaped the city, yeah. Their reunion is, well, full of mixed emotions.
Understandably so.
Triss, she's torn between, you know, her feelings for him and this distrust of the Dauntless, who are now controlled by Erudite.
Right.
And on top of that, she's dealing with her own identity as a Divergent.
Which she knows is dangerous.
Exactly. But as they come together again, they uncover a chilling truth.
What is it?
Erudite, led by Janine Matthews, they've developed this new simulation serum.
Oh, no.
It can completely control the Dauntless, turning them into, like, mindless soldiers.
Wow, that's messed up.
And now the stakes are even higher. Janine's ambition, it knows no bounds.
Yeah, it's not just about one faction anymore.
It's about taking over everything, and she doesn't care how many lives she sacrifices to get there.
So what do?
Triss, Tobias, and their allies, they're in a race against time.
They gotta stop her.
They have to expose Erudite's plan, prevent them from using this mind control on the unsuspecting Dauntless, but, well, the odds are stacked against them.
Erudite has the technology, the resources. They're willing to do anything.
And yet, Triss, Tobias, and their allies, they have something that Erudite underestimates. That courage, that determination, a belief in something bigger than themselves.
It's inspiring.
They're not just fighting for their own survival. It's about the future of their society.
Yeah.
The freedom to choose, to think, to be who they really are.
Powerful stuff.
So they make a daring move, infiltrating the Dauntless compound. They got to reach the control room. That's where the simulation's being broadcast.
Okay.
It's intense. Every step is dangerous. Their Dauntless training is put to the ultimate test.
So what happens?
Triss, she uses her quick thinking, her divergent abilities, just pure willpower to overcome everything in her way.
She's a force to be reckoned with.
She faces armed guards, navigates treacherous environments, pushes herself to the limit, both physically and mentally.
That's a lot to handle.
But then, in the middle of all this action, there's a terrible betrayal.
No.
Triss discovers that Caleb, her own brother, has been working with Erudite all along.
Oh my God.
It's devastating. It just shows you that even the people closest to you, they can be swayed by ideology, ambition, even fear.
It's a tough lesson.
Caleb's betrayal adds this whole other layer to the conflict. It's about those moral dilemmas. When your personal loyalties clash with what's right and wrong,
I see that.
it forces Triss to face this painful truth. Sometimes you can't trust anyone, not even family.
Wow.
But even with this betrayal, Triss and Tobias, they press on. They're driven by this burning desire to stop the Erudite, to save the people they love. They finally reach the control room, but there's another obstacle. Tobias, he's under the influence of the simulation serum. He turns against Triss.
Oh no, that's terrible.
It's heartbreaking. The man she loves, her mentor, her confidant, he's now a weapon in the enemy's hands. His mind is twisted. He sees Triss as the enemy, and he's ready to kill her.
That's so messed up.
Triss is forced to fight him, defending herself against the person she cares about most.
It's a fight for survival?
It's more than that. It's a battle for Tobias's soul.
I can't even imagine.
But then, in a moment of pure willpower and love, Triss uses her divergent abilities to break through the simulation's hold on Tobias.
She does.
She reminds him of who he is, appeals to his humanity, to the love that's still there.
That's amazing.
It's a powerful reminder of the power of connection. That human bond, it can't be erased even by something as insidious as this simulation.
So he breaks free.
He does, but the experience leaves him shaken, realizing what he almost did.
Yeah, it shows you how vulnerable we are, how easily our minds can be manipulated and controlled.
It's scary to think about.
It's a reminder of the dangers of power and why we need to protect our own thoughts and beliefs.
Absolutely. And together, Triss and a free Tobias confront Janine Matthews, the architect of this whole messed up plan.
So it all comes down to this.
The tension's incredible. They're facing off against the mastermind.
This is it.
It's a battle of wits and courage, a gamble with the fate of Dauntless, maybe even the whole faction system hanging in the balance. Triss, she's driven by this belief in individual choice and freedom. She risks everything to override the simulation.
Can she do it?
She wants to free the Dauntless, expose Janine's crimes to everyone.
It's a victory, but a bittersweet one. The attack on abnegation, it left so many dead.
Including Triss's father.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. The world they knew, that whole structured system, it's falling apart.
What happens when those foundations are shattered? It's like, where do you even go from there?
It's a time of reckoning,
Right.
The lines between factions are blurred, trust is broken, and the future. Well, it's uncertain. Erudite's power grab, it failed. But the stuff that caused the conflict in the first place, that's still there.
Right, it's not a simple fix.
Not at all. And now, Triss and Tobias, they gotta make a choice.
Yeah.
What do they do in this messed up world?
It's a huge decision.
Do they try to rebuild Dauntless, a faction that's been, completely shaken? Or do they go to another faction hoping for some kind of stability? Or maybe they just reject the whole faction system, head out into that unknown world beyond the walls.
Each option has its own risks and rewards.
Exactly, and it makes us think, as readers, what about us? What do we believe about belonging, about who we are, about the systems that shape our lives? It's a lot to unpack.
And what would we do in Triss's shoes? Stick with what we know, even if it's broken. Or try to find something new.
It's a tough question.
Divergent, at its core, is about the power of choice, having the courage to be different, to make your own path, even if it means going against what society expects.
I love that.
And even when it means facing the unknown.
It reminds us that real strength, it's not about blindly following or fitting in. It's about questioning things, thinking for ourselves, fighting for what we believe in, even when we're alone.
Powerful stuff.
It's about embracing who we are, celebrating what makes us different and fighting for a future where that's a good thing, not something to be afraid of.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? What can we take away from this? Divergent makes us look at our own lives, the choices we make, and the things that shape who we are.
It pushes us to think critically, to question the labels we put on ourselves and others, and to really consider what those labels mean.
And what impact they have.
Exactly. It reminds us that we all have the power to choose, to define ourselves, to make things better, even when things are tough. It encourages us to embrace our differences, celebrate our strengths, and fight for a world where everyone can be themselves.
Yeah, it's about creating a world where individuality is valued, not feared.
Absolutely. And Divergent leaves us with this image, Tris, standing at a crossroads, unsure of her future, but determined to make her own choices.
It's like she's on the edge of something new.
Her journey reminds us that growth often comes from embracing those unknowns, from challenging ourselves, and from being brave enough to be who we truly are, even when it's hard.
So if you were Tris, standing at that crossroads, which path would you choose? What does that say about you, about what you value, about what you're afraid of, about what you hope for?
Something to think about.
It's a lot to ponder, and we encourage you to experience this story for yourself. You can find a link to purchase the book in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to Mindful Moments for more insightful deep dives, all narrated by AI, so you can keep nourishing your mind on the go. Until next time.